we're going to be here forever. For those that don't know, this is Big Brothers Big Sisters 120th year of service, right? We've been doing this for a long time, and we started here. We keep pushing.
Aaron Frager, the Vice President of Recruitment and Outreach at Big Brothers Big Sisters NYC, connecting local youth with mentors from their own neighborhoods to break cycles and build futures. How many children are you servicing as of now?
Around 2,500 youth a year throughout the 5 boroughs. These young people that we're working with, I was nowhere near as confident and prepared. They're gaining that confidence by being a part of this program and working with young people that are also doing the same thing. So they're building that network within each other as well.
What are some of the things that you are unfortunately seeing right now with the actions taken against DEI, which is such a hot button topic?
Ultimately, what that is going to affect is access for our next generation. These are all key components that we fought for decades, for years. To strip that away from people is really scary, to say the least, because there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. So.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Mentors podcast. Real, as always, stands for Real Examples Altering Lives. I'm your host, Sean Martin, and today I've got an amazing guest, Aaron Frager of Big Brothers Big Sisters NYC, and he's here to share the message that so many of us are familiar with over the years of generational commercials or just great branding. Aaron, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much, Sean.
Thanks for making the trek all the way out from New Jersey.
All good.
The skies and the stars seem to have aligned for us today when you told me how long it took for you to get all the way out here to Long Island.
Definitely. I'm not, getting over to Bruckner, everything was good, so I'm
all right.
Keep it.
We're not going to jinx it. We're going to make it quick and painless, and you're going to be able to get out of here and back to your life this afternoon on a Friday.
Cool.
But I wanted to talk about this amazing organization that we all know about.
Yeah.
Big Brothers Big Sisters NYC, and more specifically, what's close to my heart is your involvement with my borough, the BX,
absolutely,
the Bronx. You already know. What's the initiative that you're focusing on right now with Big Brothers Big Sisters in the Bronx, and why specifically the Bronx?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're focusing, the name of our campaign is the Be Bronx, Be Big initiative. This initiative was really wrought from, we recognize that we serve over 500 youth a year in the Bronx, right? But we recognized we didn't have the same number of mentors from the community actually working with those youth, right? We were pulling mentors from the other boroughs, but we knew that there were strong people in the Bronx that could really set that example for people in their community. So that's what we have been actively beating the streets, building new partnerships, building relationships to make sure that young adults, anybody that's in the community that wants to get involved, wants to make a positive impact, can say like, hey, yeah, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to be that extension of a support network for a young person.
I read that Staten Island is the lowest mentorship program. It's also, I jokingly say, and some people say, the forgotten borough, but that's because of its proximity. It's an island, it's all the way south, and it has the smallest population. The Bronx, however, in my opinion, is truly the forgotten borough. It's by far the poorest borough, and it's no surprise to me, but why do you think that we have the least mentorship turnout in that borough?
There's a few things that I've been noticing since the beginning of this campaign. It's been everything sometimes where it's a lack of access to technology, right? And there are folks in the community that are really trying to address those inequalities and making sure that they are connecting and building those bridges so that, organizations like myself can come in and actually connect with the people in their district, right? I think a lot of the times it is just a matter of fighting it head on, making sure that, we know that there's people in the community that are looking for this resource, and we know that there are people that want to help and support. You just got to make it accessible to them.
Yeah, I think that's always the problem is people do want to help, and maybe they just don't know how.
Yep.
So let's get it right out of the way. What's a way for people to mentor who want to mentor? And this is something close to my heart because I literally this week just signed up with a local organization here in Long Island, EAC.
Love that.
And they work with at-risk youth. So I now have a 17-year-old mentee and a 13-year-old mentee.
Love that.
It's something close to my heart. So my borough, I want them to succeed. And I think we've got all the talent in the world there, but it's just gone unnoticed. And how can someone that wants to be a mentor find you and actually get the process started to becoming one?
Yeah, it's just as simple as going to our website, bigsnyc.org. Outside of that, it's really, we are in the community at least hosting an event at least at minimum once a month, but we're outside. we're really outside. We're really outside. Like the whole point is that we want to make sure that we're visible, and that's why my team has really been on their grinds to just make sure that people see us and not just like, oh, in passing. It's like, no, we're going to be here forever. Like with this, for those that don't know, this is Big Brothers Big Sisters 120th year of service, right? We started at NYC, so this is a big deal. We are really building towards like the larger momentum of the larger organization, but also like we've been doing this for a long time, and we started here, right? So this is why folks like myself that are born and raised here in New York really are so invested in the work, and that's kind of like why we are, we keep pushing.
I didn't know that was actually founded here in New York. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I think too is people maybe don't consider themselves worthy of being a mentor.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And I'm like, dude, if you overcame poverty, if you overcame any kind of trauma, which is unfortunately all too familiar, where I come from, and from poverty and inner city. Yeah. You're a testament to some level of success.
Exactly.
Maybe you just don't frame it that way in your head. And I think that keeps people from thinking that they're even capable of being a mentor. What does being a mentor entail, and what's the time commitment?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that don't know, also, I'm a big myself. So I actually was in the program growing up, and now I'm currently a mentor myself. I had mentoring a young kid, Caden. Right. He's 11 years old. The same age I was when I started the program, right? But what it really entails is just about 2 weekends a month, right? You are spending some focused time with this young person. They're going to decide on the goals themselves of what they want to do, whether it's like academic goals, goals around confidence building, relationship building, or just really just supporting their social emotional growth. But ultimately, 2 weekends a month, you're checking in with this young person. You're not there to replace the role of a parent, right? That's not what we're asking people to do. We are asking people to, one, help elevate the voices of these young people, right? Listening to them, identifying ways that you can support their growth. They're like, oh, I want to get into entertainment. I want to get into tech. I want to better my community. How do I get involved? And they're like, all right, great. Let me tap into my resources, right? To your question of how were people thinking that, they're not worthy. I've gotten so many of our newer mentors, they were saying, like, before we kind of like engaged in with this campaign, they were like, I don't think I'm ready, right? It's that imposter syndrome that we kind of like deal with. I would honestly say it's probably a lot of people of color that kind of deal with this a lot, but in general, but people that have probably lived in poverty also kind of deal with that in the sense of they're really pushing and trying to make their way in this crazy world without that guidance, because they may or may not have had that mentorship, right? Which is why we want to make sure that mentorship is accessible for everybody.
Right. A big thing for me and the way that I've found success is going it knowing that I have no freaking clue how I'm going to get to the place that I want to get to. And that takes courage and that takes belief. And I think the biggest hang up that we have that doesn't allow for us to escape poverty is the mindset component. Sure, there's inequities. Sure, the system wasn't designed for us to succeed. There's a reason it's called the projects, right? There's a reason that we're the highest, percentage of incarcerated. There's a reason that unfortunately African Americans and Latinos are down at the bottom of the top 10 in terms of earning potential. Right. Okay, we are born in the pot of gold and we do not see it for what it is. Yet an immigrant can come over to this country and excel within a generation or two. Now that is a very deep conversation with many layers that we can't peel back right now. And it also talks to the DEI, component, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. We just want to be part of this country that we help to build and add flavor to, because let's just face it, American food is okay, but it's not as good as some of the food that comes from other parts of the world, which we incorporate and then, kind of modify and assimilate into this American culture, which is a melting pot. DEI is under fire right now. Yeah. And we don't want to get too far into it as we discussed, because unfortunately, we want to focus on the solutions. Right. And we both discussed that the solution is people having discussions and stepping up to be mentors. What are some of the things that you are unfortunately, seeing right now with the actions taken against DEI and that acronym, which is such a hot button topic? What are some of the things you're seeing these days?
Well, ultimately what that is going to affect is access for our next generation, right? Say whether it's banning books, whether it's banning education or limiting access to resources like translators or visual aids, whatever it might be. These are all key components that we fought for decades, for years. And some of them we're just getting. And to strip that away from people, that the opportunity to access, the opportunity to be able to potentially work or just be upstanding, upright citizens and being contributing citizens is really, really scary, to say the least. I know our communities of mentors are feeling it. Our youth, our families are feeling it because there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. So,
right, and those are the people that are most vulnerable. Now, I've got to say that I am a believer in DEI, which it wasn't called DEI when I was growing up. Right. It was just called a scholarship, or it was called a grant, or it was called something that would help a poor kid from the projects afford to go someplace he couldn't go.
Right.
So I showed a propensity for being talented, but my mother was a single mother who was a social worker all her life, and there's no way at $40,000 or $50,000 a year she was going to be able to do the things that someone who has two parents in a home, let alone a middle class person, can do. So, what are some of the things that you're doing to combat this? Because we also talked about, at the end of the day, no matter what happens from the top office, we've still got to move forward.
Absolutely.
So how are you combating that? Is the message changing? Is the approach changing? Or you just forging ahead, business as usual?
We're forging ahead, business as usual. I think that's the one thing that we are rooted in, and it's part of our missions, putting youth first, but also advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's business as usual. We are going to continue to fight for our community and making sure that they have the resources they need to be successful. Now, the way that we do that, obviously through the mentorship aspect, is we serve youth between the ages of 7 and 17 for our standard community-based program where everyone knows us for. So that's being out in the community, taking your mentee one-to-one. But we also have extension programs like our College and Career Success program. So that's serving those youth as they've graduated on from the traditional program. They're now going into their young adulthood. And, either they're going to college or they're exploring any kind of secondary education or professional background, and connecting them to internships through our corporate partners and making sure that we're creating that pipeline of access for them.
And so you're saying that big brothers, big sisters, you kind of age out at 17 with your mentor, but the program is still able to support those youth as they go into young adulthood and through their college careers?
Absolutely. And to be 1,000% honest, people, when they leave the program, a lot of them don't leave the program, right? They've built this great bond with their mentor and they're still connected with them, right? And some of them actually stay with their same mentor as they transition into the next stage of the program. Really, it really might just depend on their potential career that they're looking to pursue, right? But ultimately, as long as all participants are willing to stay a part of the program, then we're there for them as well.
So I know you said you were someone who had a big growing up, and now you're a big.
Yeah.
Can you share any success stories that that stand out with you in the program, other than yourself, obviously, because you're a testament to maybe what the program can bring to the table for someone young?
Absolutely. I mean, I've worked at the organization officially for the last 6 years. I joined in 2019. And I've gotten to meet some amazing matches, between the big and the middle over the years. And just, when I joined in 2019, meeting these matches at the start of their match, and they were great then. And there's the amazing things that they've done now. We've had littles that have released books. They've been on the news because they're like, they've created books. They have been advocates in the community. They've ran for local office in this city. And these are just some examples. Our amazing community of youth are just doing so many things, and I'm just like, you guys are so far ahead of where I was at your age. But I love to see that, right? And I love to see that and be a part of that. I think that's what's so rewarding about the work, as well as just being a part of that growth.
Yeah, I like to say generational progress, right? We're
Love
supposed
that.
to do better than our parents, and they did better than theirs.
I love that.
Obviously there's all kinds of obstacles, and there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. Who are your traditional littles? Like, are they kids from single family homes, single moms? Is there a blueprint? What does that look like? Is there something or someone that fits the mold more than any other group?
Yeah, no. Actually, so in the sense of the only requirement for the program is that you want to have to be a part of it, because all the kids have to opt in, right? It's not any program that anyone's mandated to be a part of. They actually have to willingly be a part of the program, right? There's no income requirements for the program. Really just making sure that mentorship is accessible for everyone. Do we have a lot of single parent households? Yeah, we definitely have a significant amount. We also have multi-generational households. Family dynamics definitely look different nowadays as well.
Of course.
But with that said, there's no cookie cutter blueprint of like who's going to be the right little. It's really just about them wanting to be a part of the program and really wanting to invest their time, because the mentor is also there to help the young people hold themselves accountable, right? They're just as much part of this process as the mentor, right? I learn from my mentee every day, and I know a lot of our other bigs can speak the same of like, what they went into the program thinking it was going to be versus like where they're at now. And they're like, wow, I've grown from this experience. And I think that's something that really resonates kind of within the community.
Yeah, I think the need for mentors is just paramount to success. So you mentioned untraditional family. The family structure doesn't look like what it did a generation ago, and definitely not 50, 60, or 2 generations ago.
No.
And I always say, like, because I grew up in New York City, to me, I could care less. Like, my mother grew up, and we had gay friends, we had bi friends. We had all kinds of people that were in our life. So it was normal for me.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's from middle America or even upstate New York, that may be taboo. But I always say any community is better than being on your own and trying to figure it out.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you kind of pointing that out just in passing, because it takes a village. It sounds so cliche, but the more points of view that we have downloading information into us, the better human beings I feel that we're going to be in the end. Now, in terms of becoming a mentor, we talked about 2 weekends a month. What does that weekend look like? I want to really draw that out for someone who's interested, because I think a lot of people want to help. They don't know how, and they don't feel qualified because, like you said, that imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I'll speak to my own weekends, right? A lot of times it's me reaching out to Kate and like, hey, how's school going this week, et cetera, and really just touching base. And now we've been matched about 7-8 months-ish, but regardless of that, we've started to build rapport. He's a great communicator for a kid. Like, I was terrible at that age, so it's really impressive. But all that to say, checking in with them or the parent or guardian, like, hey, Kaden, what would you like to do this weekend? Oh, I want to go to Hot Pot. All right, let's go do it. I'm a big eater. Let's do it. But it always organically morphs into us like kind of just like hanging out or playing volleyball together, whatever. It can be something as that, right? A lot of people are like, oh, we're going to shoot hoops. We're going to do this. We're going to go to a museum. It's really that bonding time, but also it can be more focused, right? It can be more focused depending on what the young person's goals might be. So like maybe if it's an academic goal that you guys are trying to hit, you might be studying together, right? You might be teaching them new studying habits, or taking them to a workshop that we're hosting as an organization or that we've been sponsored to host, right? There's a lot of things that go into kind of planning and outing, which is that time you're spending one-on-one with your little. But I can say that like there's always not going to be like a definite structure of like, okay, this is what you should be doing every weekend. Right. But it's really going to be based off of the interests of both the mentor and the mentees.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that now. I had one kid who's 17. He's not working. So, the first thing I said is, and he was very adamant about wanting to get a job. So every situation looks different. The other one's a 13-year-old who is very busy in after-school programs and sports. So the weekends, and, I'll be 100% honest. I'm like, damn, that's my family time. But I know that doesn't always look the same. Yeah. It's flexible. And I want to paint the picture for the time commitment. Yeah. When you say weekends, it's easy for someone, that's my time off. But I want to encourage people to really look at this fairly. What is a time commitment? What is a weekend? How many hours?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that because I think that deters people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, at minimum 2 hours for an outing, right? We do that on our phones. Like you wake up in your Instagram, you're like, oh, it's now 11 o'clock. I've done nothing with my life today, right? That's what we're looking for. And really just committing to that time. So we're looking for people that can be a consistent presence. So like, hey, you're going to meet with your mentee twice a month. Hold on to that, right? But I always tell people, communicate. Life happens. Life is going to continue to happen, right? So if something comes up, just communicate to your little, communicate to the parent or guardian, like, hey, something came up. Let's find a different day, right? Maybe it's the weekend that just this month weekends are just not good. Maybe it's that Friday night that's best for you to go take them to a movie and spend time. Just communicate. That's what we tell people. You can find the time. If you really want to make an effort and impact in your community, you can make the time. But at minimum, 2 hours per outing, but ideally like around 8 hours a month volunteering.
So let's go bare minimum, 4 hours a month.
Yeah.
You can change the trajectory of some young person's life. 4 hours a month, 4 hours a month, just 4 hours a month. And what you know is already a lens into the future of what life or real life is as an adult, both good and bad.
Yeah.
But you're also giving that person a look into the future, a mirror into the future, and also just possibly something that you say, you do, you show them, a place that you take them,
right,
that kind of just opens up a brand new world for them.
Yeah.
So it can't be stated enough how important the need for this is. How many mentors do you aim to attract on a yearly basis, or is it about retention? Because I know that it's, there's probably some percentage that kind of moves on and then you bring in a certain percentage. So New York City being a huge city, obviously, how many children are you servicing as of now?
Around 2,500 youth a year throughout the 5 boroughs. I will say probably the boroughs with the most youth serve is always going to be like Manhattan, Brooklyn. But that's what we're also recognizing, because it's just not about just the youth that we're serving. It's about where the demand is also coming from, right? We have high demand from the Queens. We have high demand from the Bronx. We don't have enough mentors to serve in those areas. That's what we're doing active work in those communities to make sure we can bring those mentors in.
So proximity of the mentors and the mentees is also important when matching, correct?
Very, very important.
Me being in Long Island, probably not great to have somebody in the Bronx or, Staten Island.
Yeah, but if you're passionate, you're like, hey, I really want to do this because, this is my community, we will make the exception and talk through it.
Excellent.
But,
and that's important. So right now, I want to take it back to the Bronx.
Yeah.
What are your numbers in the Bronx? What are your goals? And where do you feel that we can get that number to, realistically?
So,
because I know that's where you're making a big push right now.
Absolutely. Right now, we have a goal of recruiting and making 130 matches in the Bronx, right? We are about at 60, so we're near that halfway point. So really great, really exciting. This is actually like the largest number of Bronx to Bronx matches we've ever had together. So like both the mentor and the mentee are from the Bronx, right? That's amazing. And we're really excited to continue to support that and build these new relationships. Are we going to hit that 130? It is my mission to make that happen, right? Because I'm from the community. I want to make sure that we are creating that access that I was able to be introduced to through the program. Like my mother, single mother, raised me with my grandfather, my aunts, right? And, between her heading to work on Wall Street to make sure that, we had rent paid and, hey, you're going to stay with your grandfather this week so I can, do what we got to do. And then finding this program for me to introduce me to these other aspects, right? My mentor, I think he was probably from the Midwest, but regardless of that, he was able to introduce me and he was to different things. And he was an outlet that wasn't a parent, right? That wasn't going to be nagging or coming. He was really just kind of giving me a space to speak, right?
A safe space
to speak as a teen or preteen that's angsty and just trying to figure it all out and just doesn't really know what's going through the emotions. But that's kind of the root of it that we're looking for. And for people to be joined as mentors. But in the Bronx specifically, to bring that back there, we know a lot of young people in the Bronx aren't getting access to the resources that folks in the other boroughs are getting, right? That's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate reality. It's something that we are actively trying to combat and working with other community partners like Live from the Bronx, Bronx Native, as well as other folks doing amazing work, Q Capital, just other amazing organizations that are just doing work in the community to elevate the community.
Yeah, I mean, that number is staggering. 60 out of 1.2 million people.
Right.
We've got more talent than that, BX.
Right.
We've got way more success stories than 60.
And that's
we've got
60
way
at
more
minimum.
than 130.
Yeah.
That's
60 at minimum. Like we want to recruit those 130, but no, we want more, right?
absolutely.
We want more.
as many as possible because that's where the biggest need is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's I'm gonna keep my language clean. That's freaking terrible.
Yeah.
That really is. And that's no fault of your own.
Mm-hmm.
That's no fault of the organizations. That's just, it's a testament to what I feel is a mindset of hopelessness. And the Bronx is unfortunately a breeding ground for that feeling. I grew up in the Northeast Bronx, which, again, there's nice neighborhoods. You got Pelham Parkway, you go up to Pelham Bay and Throgs Neck, and, you see trees and you see,
Right.
nicer neighborhoods. And then now I've gotten more acquainted with the South Bronx and some of the struggles there. And then also Harlem, which shares a district. And that is where there is the most methadone clinics, the most shelters. I mean, it is just the most concentrated level of disparity in the city is in that particular area of the South Bronx and Harlem, which is really sad because there's so much culture there. There's so much history, particularly in Harlem.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really sad to see.
Even the landscape of that has really changed a lot with just, I mean.
It is, the buildings, but I think that's the real estate. You know what I mean? And that's not, unfortunately, it's not impacting us. We might have a few shops there.
Yeah.
We might have a few shops
A few.
there. And I mean, it's crazy because, I shared my story with you, and I used to ironically go to parole in the South Bronx, and that is when they start, this is 15 plus years ago, they started building all of those buildings. There was maybe one or two of those high rises.
Yeah.
And when I drive by now, I'm blown away by the fact that there's high rises with floor to ceiling windows in the South Bronx. But we're not the target.
Right.
And when I say we, I mean Black and brown, people of color,
people from New York also.
Means, people from New York, right? That's attracting people that are coming over, or young and up and coming professionals who can't afford to live in Manhattan or Brooklyn, God forbid. So South Bronx is like a great option. You're one train stop away from Manhattan. You can get to work. And it's so crazy because there's the Deegan, and on this side, it's business as usual.
Yeah.
It's the South Bronx. And on this side, it's all these nice, shiny new buildings that charge thousands of dollars per month. How do we attract more professionals and professionals of color from the Bronx to become bigs?
From the ones that we've recruited thus far, a lot of the times, outside of the competing with the imposter syndrome, they're just like, I'm just trying to keep my head afloat, right? Like, I am just trying to make it by. But the ones that have signed up, they're like, you know what? This is really important because I know what I did not have. Or what I did get, right? Some of them have had mentors that are like, oh my God, this is kind of the same thing that I was able to experience. And I know I can give that 4 hours a month minimum, right? I can at least do that. And if my schedule changes a little bit, we'll figure it out. But I'm going to at least put my effort into this to really support. But how we do this, we do everything from working with, like I mentioned, a few of our community partners, but we host events throughout the community and really working with the local businesses around the Bronx to make sure that even if it is just a happy hour or if we have a networking event on the 28th, at Sankofa House that it's called It Takes a Village, right? It's our second annual one with our community partner, MLT. But it's really rooted in creating the space, right? A lot of when you have these young professional mixers and everything like that, they're always downtown. Yeah. They're never in the community. So for Bronx professionals that still have to travel back, an hour and a half from downtown, no, we want to make sure we have stuff available in the community for folks. That's what we try to make sure we're making space in the community for people to be like, all right, great, I'm going home. I can do this. I can go up the block and join this networking mix with other professionals that are in my community too, and learn more about how we can all get involved.
Are there any support systems for the mentors, or is it just like an intro to training, how to be a good mentor to these mentees?
Yeah, we definitely do trainings, but no, the support systems internally, we have what's called affinity group networks. So these are groups of volunteers. Sometimes they're more identity based, like we have the Latinx Bigs. We have Big Pride LGBTQ group. We have Big Unite, which is our Black African American group of mentors or folks from the community that are like, I don't have time to mentor, but I can support the organization by joining one of these groups and helping with community engagement. I can help with fundraising on behalf of the organization. I can make sure that I can be a community advocate by working with you all. So these are some of the supports that we have in place in order for folks to stay connected. They host events. They really bring the community together at large. But my team also is responsible for like that onboarding piece and making sure that people get the training and support. And each person once they're in the program formally, they are supported by what's called a program manager. And that's the staff member that oversees the match. So they're checking in with them on a monthly basis, giving them access to training, resources, and making sure that they have everything they need to kind of not stay afloat, but make sure that they can have a successful match.
Are you doing any outreach? You did mention internships. I'm going to take a wild stab and say you've got corporate partnerships and affiliations. How does that look? And are you recruiting mentors out of those spaces as well, or that you're just looking for them for fundraising?
Always. So we have a few different programs at the organization. I'll actually break them down now. So our community-based program is what we're known for. So that's, one-to-one in the community, kind of our calling card. But we have other programs that are also have grown and become our calling card as well, like our workplace mentoring program. So that's with the corporate partners. We have about 40 or so corporate partners, anything from like NBCUs or like just other different networks or financial institutions here in the city. And those are cohort-based, where we have about 15 high school students from different high schools that we are partnered with in the city, where 15 students are paired with 15 mentors at this corporate partner, and they go to that office and they get to have that experience, and they work with that mentor from 10th grade through 12th grade when they graduate. So they're developing professional skills, developing exposure to these different industries. And then, like I mentioned, they can transition on into that college and career success program that we have. So once they finish high school, they're graduating, we really try to make sure we give them access to that next step. So leading up through that, it's everything from helping them develop what their personal brand is going to be, their professional presence, as well as getting them ready to hit the real world, right? If you want to get a job, you're applying for schools, you're applying for these different programs, these internships, we are doing the mock interview coaching. We are working with our different teams, like our Young Professionals Committee or our career access staff members internally, to make sure that our youth can be successful in these spaces and can walk into these rooms confidently. Like these young people that we're working with, I was nowhere near as confident and prepared, but they're gaining that confidence by being a part of this program and working with young people that are also doing the same thing. So they're building that network within each other as well.
I love that, the corporate component and internships came up because, in my opinion, I'm doing community-based work. I thought about starting a scholarship fund, and then it clicked. Instead of a scholarship fund, how about an internship stipend fund?
Nice.
Because how many kids of high school age would choose a part-time job after school over an unpaid internship?
Yeah.
Right? Because most internships, let's face it, are unpaid unless you've got the hookup, which doesn't come from down here. It comes from somebody who's in the know or somebody who's in the corporation, and then you get a paid internship for the summer. Mm-hmm. So these kids sometimes will choose jobs over unpaid internships. Are there any resources that you're available like that, or am I just,
Yeah, no. So
okay. I like to invent the wheel.
No, absolutely. So a lot of the youth in our workplace program, they do receive stipends to be a part of that program as well, which is fantastic. And I believe all of the internships that I wouldn't say secure, it's never guaranteed, but the internships that our youth or college program are allowed to apply for and they're all generally paid internships, whether with our various corporate partners.
Excellent. So they'll cover the cost of travel and eating and ancillary expenses like that. So, the importance of an internship is just that you're seeing that real world experience.
Yeah.
And you can make a couple of decisions there. You can see if this is something you want to pursue.
Yeah.
Or, like I like to tell young people, you're going to have to go through a bunch of different things, and it's easier to determine who you're not than it is to determine who you are. Because, a lot of times we'll dive into something for the money or the security and then come to realize that this isn't for us later on.
Or survival.
And you mentioned that a lot of people in the Bronx, they haven't necessarily made it out. They've just made it to a higher level of survival. My words, not yours, but based on what you said and why we may struggle with the imposter syndrome, or you've told me, people feel like, I'm just getting by myself. Right. So, your mom was surviving on limited income or maybe even public assistance, if that were the case. And here you are, you have a decent job, but your cost of living is almost right at the same level. And this is America, so you're probably living in some kind of debt, whether it be your car or your credit card.
Student loans.
or your student loans.
They got me.
Listen, that's for another subject before I get myself in trouble with the banks. But I found that it's crazy because I remember when I was in college, student loans were 1.9%. 1.9. What are they now?
Oof.
5.9, 7.9?
Usually,
like that. And, once the bank cannot make money in one arena, they will just turn around and make it in another arena because they've got to become, they've got to be profitable every quarter. And that is the gift and the curse of capitalism. But that's for another conversation, another subject. There's an expense that comes with mentoring.
Yes, yeah.
So for somebody who's just getting by, that's probably a deterrent. Are there resources available to someone who wants to mentor but maybe doesn't have the financial means? Or can they just do things that don't cost as much money? Because we want to encourage them to help.
Yes, absolutely. So we always say low to no cost activities, right? We're not asking people to like take your mentee out for a 4-course meal, even if it is within your means. Like, go to the park, especially in the summer times. Take advantage of our libraries. Like, we're a big proponent of the public libraries across the city. Museums. Yeah, right? But like, that's a thing. People don't tap into the resources. Like, the library card literally gets you access to every museum in the city for free, right? And people don't recognize that. They're like, oh, I didn't know. Like, you can do that, right? All we ask our mentors to cover is the basic cost of like travel. So like, get on the train. All right, $3, I guess it is now. I'm
going to go renew my library card, brother.
Renew that library card. Renew that library card.
I know that.
Every museum in the city.
Wow. A lot of times we take for granted the fact that we have one of the most densely populated cities in the world with some of the greatest collection of art exhibits.
Absolutely.
History. I had a friend who is living in Europe. Originally, he's from Latvia. He's a personal trainer of mine. And he came out here and stood with us for 7 weeks. And I took him to Central Park one day. And I was like, hey, you ever seen dinosaurs? And we're walking through Central Park. We took him to Times Square, 34th Street. We make our way up to Central Park. When this question comes out, I'm like, you ever seen dinosaurs? He's like, no. Let's go. We kept walking. We went to the fucking Museum of Natural History.
Love it.
And we got T-Rexes and Brontosaurus. I mean, it's amazing what we have at our disposal. And we never take advantage. New Yorkers are, I don't want to say willfully, but just like ignorantly blind to the culture and the arts and the availability of everything to them because maybe they're still in that survival instinct mode. And I got to tell you that I've been fortunate enough to find success. And one of the most exciting times of my life was when I was completely broke and completely in love. And me and my now wife treated New York City like tourists.
I love that.
Every single weekend, we would just go somewhere. And it cost us little to nothing.
Right.
Little to nothing. Every museum, whether or not you have that public library card, is whatever you feel like donating.
Exactly.
For the most part. Donate $2 if you got it. If you don't got it, a quarter, whatever. Nobody's going to frown at you. Nobody's going to look at you any differently. So to the bigs that is, or the potential bigs, where that is a foreseen obstacle, just like so many things in our life, it's a limiting belief.
Absolutely.
And we need to rid ourselves of that. But, that's about getting the message out. I appreciate you coming by today. I'd like for you to share anything more that, we haven't discussed today, not only about the program or, my love of my life, which is the Bronx, but how someone who wants to help, maybe with their time more so than their money, can get involved and walk them through again how simple that process really is. Because I think people, they create these walls and these barriers to the ability for them to actually help, the kids that look like them and needed what they needed.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Like, what I tell everyone is if you're interested, reach out, right? We will make sure that you guys get that link towards the end of this, but go to the website, BiggsNYC, or follow us on social media, BBSNYC. Reach out, and we are active and willing and ready to talk to you about the program. We host orientation every week on Zoom, right? You just log in from your phone. You could be on your way home. You can be doing whatever. Weekly, right? 2 weekends a month. Every Wednesday, we also host them, right? So we make sure that we have created space for people to just like tap in and hear about what's going on, right? You fill out that application, get your references in. These are just the baby steps. And then, afterwards is paperwork, background checks and everything like that. But those are important because this is child safety, right? We want to make sure that's okay. But I also want to stress this too, because this is something that I've been coming across. We have folks that have been incarcerated and they feel like, oh, I can't be a mentor. And I'm like, no.
Thank you.
That's not the case. Like, you have important experiences that a lot of our young people are also facing themselves, right?
The most important, the mistakes not to make.
Yeah, please come talk to me. You see us in the street, you see us doing the work in the community, come talk to us. And then for people that are, you know what, I don't have time to be a mentor, but I still want to get involved, join our street team. Like, these are my folks. We are outside. I'm not playing.
I've not heard street team since the days of hip hop started. That's awesome. You got a street team.
We like to, but especially once the weather gets better. But we are really going to be out, 5-6 days a week, beating the streets.
I've seen you at any community events, outdoor, indoor. You guys almost always have a table.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole purpose of us really just engaging with the community. But 2 weekends a month, right? Around 4 hours a month. That's what we're looking for people. It's not. This is not something that you shouldn't think that you could not do. You have a story. You have experience. You are more than worthy of sharing that with somebody and really just giving them some exposure, some guidance. I think that's just the most beautiful part about the journey, that growth that you both go through together.
Half of your daily screen time. Spread out over a month, 2 weekends. That's what we're asking as a minimum commitment here, people. If that doesn't hit home, I want to end it on a more personal note.
Yeah.
Share one great story with us, your own personal experience of having a big and how that impacted your life.
Yeah. I think ultimately having that mentor brought me back to this organization, right? I was in the program when I was 10 to 14, so like end of elementary school into high school. And just that having that space to talk to somebody is definitely something that I needed at the time. This family was going through it, right? Like many other young people that I meet. I see myself in them all the time when I hear their stories and learn about their experiences. And, I was working out in the community at the time in Queens doing education and a little bit of like housing advocacy work with an organization called Woodside on the Move. They do fantastic stuff in Queens. But that aside, I really wanted to work one-on-one with youth again, right? That's why I was just like, okay, what can I do? And then light bulb went off. I was in Big Brothers Big Sisters. Let me reach out, right? And that's what brought me back to it. So I knew that creating access to mentorship, being a mentor again myself, which I'm so happy to do, is part of my calling because mentorship is so important and critical for development. Everyone can benefit from a mentor. Even my professional mentors in life were like these, an old boss. Even my current boss is a mentor to me that see potential in you, and they don't have a reason to do that. They're just like, I see something in you and I want to support you, right? Whether it's a gentle nudge here and there, like really telling you to step your game up, or really give you some a little bit more focused guidance, and giving you that tough love in a professional setting is also important. But these are all the things that culminated in me wanting to get back into this work when I did, and continue to fight for it.
Well, I just want to thank you again, Aaron, for coming out today. So I want to thank you for committing your time to not only the show, but the mission that you're on, and everybody involved with that organization. 120 years, New York-based. Anybody out there, particularly from my home base of the Bronx. If you're someone who is struggling with the idea that you're not good enough, that you are not the role model type, trust me, there are plenty of lessons that you've learned, both good, bad, and otherwise, that you can share with these young people that can potentially help change their life or avoid some of the pitfalls. So anybody out there he just mentioned who may have even been incarcerated, there is nobody with a more powerful story than you to share to help a young person from going astray. So let's stop the nonsense, the lack of belief, the limiting beliefs, the imposter syndrome that we have as a people, and let's get our hands out and help lift each other up. This organization has the blueprint. All you need to do is Google search, type in your name. They're going to follow up. They're going to call you, and they're going to lay out just how easy it is for you to help. We're all capable of doing that. As I say, not to get political, no one's coming to save us. We have to do that ourselves. And this is one of the great organizations in our city and in the country that are helping to do this. So again, brother, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Sean.
I really do appreciate you and the organization and the work that you do. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Real Mentors podcast. Couldn't have been a better fit today. So thank you, Aaron, for coming out. Thank you, Biggs, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of NYC. Officially, I didn't know that. That was an awesome learning experience myself. And now I have to also commit myself to this program and finding out a little more. I'm doing it locally here on the island, but I do love the Bronx, and I do have to consider because I think I have a lot to give. And it all starts with you. So thank you all for tuning in to the Real Mentors podcast. As always, let's get it and stay tuned.